I don't care what y'all say. We skated out of San Diego. You know what? And another thing I want to say on this, let's get this going. Record, man.
You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans. Tune in every week on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Also follow us on Twitter at PillageJustForFun. That's at PillageJust4Fun. I'm your host, Kenny Stapler, joined every week by my co-host, Raider Kane. It's time to pillage, Kane. What's good? Let's get into it.
What's good, baby? Playoffs, 14 years. It's been a long time, baby. A long, long time. You know, last time the Raiders made the playoffs, I was 32 years old. Now I'm 46. 14 years has been a long time. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I want to give a shout out to Willie on the blog. Willie was 65 years old the last time the Raiders made the playoffs. This man is about to be 80 years old this year. So I want to give a shout out to Willie. Much respect, much love to you, man. And I'm glad you here with us to see the next go-round of this great Raiders team.
That's real talk, Kane. Definitely shout out to Willie. I hope they win it all for you this year, buddy. I really do. I'd like to see that. So speaking of which, we can actually start talking about playoffs, and it's not hypothetical. It's not a big what-if scenario. Let's talk about it. Right now, we're the number 2 seed in the AFC bracket. That means we get a first-round bye and home field advantage unless we would have to go on the road to play New England, should they be there. I kind of feel like they might be there. Now, there's been a lot of scuttlebutt about Derek Carr's performance in cold weather games. That being a potential playoff situation, how do you feel about it?
How do I feel about Derek Carr playing in New England?
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. What I would prefer as a Raiders season ticket holder, as a long life Raider fan, I would prefer the Super Bowl to come through Oakland. But if we have to go to New England, I would love to see the Raiders go in there and kick some ass. Get a redemption for what happened in 2002. You know, the Snow Bowl. I'm sorry, 2001, the Snow Bowl. We've been looking for payback. And I think if we have to go into New England with Khalil Mack, I wouldn't count that out. I believe that we might have a situation where Khalil Mack might make that sack and fumble, and we have Bruce Irvin pick that fumble up, and we recover it this time, and there's no question about whether Tom Brady threw the ball or whether he fumbled. So, yeah.
I think there's a lot of Raider fans that would agree with you. In the back of my head, I really want that. I feel like I actually really need that. I need that kind of closure. We know Tom Brady, the medicine to Tom Brady is to get inside his wheelhouse, to get him off his spot and out of rhythm. He can crumble. We've seen it happen before. It's just really hard to get to this guy. It's a lot of quick drops. But if any team's going to do it, I feel like the Oakland Raiders can do it. We're a team that bothers quarterbacks. It doesn't always show up in the sack column, but just this week against the Chargers, Mack had, I think it was a career-high 9 hurries. He was getting after it. It didn't show up on the stat sheet. I think he might have got a half sack, so he didn't get the sack record, the single season sack record streak. But he was in there all day, and we've been saying it all year that we don't need to wait for Khalil Mack to show up because we see him show up every week. You're just not paying attention. I kind of want New England on the road. Let me just say that I kind of want that. But you should be concerned. Derek Carr does have the history in bad weather games. I think we would have been okay in KC if we could have been under center. And so far, I don't see him under center, which leads me to feel a little bit uneasy about a potential road game in New England in late January. So let's talk about the San Diego game. Well, actually, before we move on to that, just again, a formal thank you to our pals, the Tennessee Titans, for taking care of business on the road this weekend.
I want to give a shout out to the Tennessee Titans. You came through for us, baby. Round of applause.
Very much so. And Alex Smith did what Alex Smith does. The Kansas City Chiefs thought they were going to eke out another one, and Tennessee just came with that medicine. They brought the medicine. Now, we said that Kansas City was going to lose one of the last 3 games, and they just, lose. and they just lost that one. They got 2 more games. They got a game against the Chargers. They got a game against the Broncos. The Chargers, I mean, you saw one this weekend, and we're about to get into it. They almost took one from us. Can the Chargers beat the Chiefs? Can the Broncos beat the Chiefs? How many more games are the Chiefs going to lose?
You know what? I think the Chiefs are going to have a hard time beating the Chargers. I really do. I think what is that, a away game or a home game for the Chiefs? I believe the Chiefs have their last 3 at home. So I believe that's an away game. That's a home game.
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay, so the Chiefs are at home against the Chargers. You can count the Chargers out. I mean, the Chargers played really well at home against the Raiders this Sunday. It was a typical Charger-Raider game, but when they play the Chiefs in San Diego in 1-degree weather, I don't know. I mean, I don't give the Chargers much of a chance to win that game.
My mistake. The Chargers, that game is actually in San Diego.
Oh, okay. Well, let's rewind that. The Chargers playing at home against the Chiefs. The Chiefs haven't been playing teams listen, they average 14, 17 points a game. The Chargers have been putting up major points. Aside from this Sunday, the Chargers, they scored 25, 30 points a game. This team is a high-scoring team. Phillip Rivers, you can never count Phillip Rivers out at home. So with that being said, with the Chargers coming in, just like they played the Raiders just like they would play any other team, except they played the Raiders like this was their playoff game. And I believe that the last 3 games these Chargers play are playoff games to them, whether they didn't make the playoffs or not. I think Phillip Rivers has his team thinking that these are playoff games. So I think when the Chiefs go into San Diego, they're going to have a problem. And the Chargers may just skate away with that game, just like they almost did with us.
And so that's the last game of their season. Next week they play Denver, and they play Denver in Kansas City right now. So again, that's another game that they could potentially lose. We saw this weekend that the Broncos defense continues to show up and play. They held the Patriots to, I believe, 16 points, but that offense still isn't scoring points. They only put up 6 points. Now, against a Kansas City offense that also doesn't score many points, that game should be a total slugfest. And I really think it's a crapshoot. I'm not going to give leverage to either team there. I'm going to say that's a toss-up game, and I'm going to cross my fingers that Denver comes to play and beats Kansas City. What do you feel about that? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't think so. I think Denver is going to roll over to Kansas City. And you know why? I think because Alex Smith is better than any quarterback on Denver's roster. So with that being said, the defense on Denver, first of all, Denver is in turmoil right now. Their offense is arguing along with their defense arguing with the. So that's already telling you right there, there's a problem in Denver. But with that being said, they still trying to make the playoffs. So this game that they got coming up against Kansas City this week, unless Denver somehow figures out what they're gonna do on offense, I don't see either quarterback being able to outscore Alex Smith. You know what I mean? On offense. So both defenses are excellent. Both defenses are great. This is going to be a matchup of offenses. Who can score the most points on each other's defense? And right now, I think Kansas City with Alex Smith has that edge.
So, I mean, there's really no telling who we're going to see in the first round at this point. Well, actually, as of right now, we're not playing in the first round, which is great. But just really quick, without getting too far into it, let's look a little bit of the AFC playoff picture. You got Kansas City right now in that 5th spot. Should they drop another and we continue to win out, obviously it looks really pretty for us. They have 10 wins. If they finish the season 10-6, they could possibly get overtaken by Miami, who I don't see them winning out because they do play New England, I think the last game of the season. And then hot on their tails is Baltimore, Tennessee, and Denver all tied at 8 wins apiece. So it's really a crapshoot for that wild card spot right now. I feel like there could be a lot of movement there. There could be fluidity. I don't see Miami there at the end of the season. I just think that Baltimore, Tennessee, or Denver is going to take over and get in there. And I think that number 5 spot will probably be held by Kansas City.
Who is Denver going to beat? Who is Denver going to beat in the last 2 games?
That's a good question, actually, because now you just cornered me because they only play us and Kansas City. So you're right. Hopefully Denver just falls off the map.
There you go. I mean, we just said it. I think Kansas City has an edge, and of course, I'm gonna go with the Raiders in that last game because we still need to win games to win a division. So I don't see Denver winning a game in the next 2 games.
I don't know who they play, but Baltimore and Tennessee got a shot of sneaking into that number 6 spot. So let's say it's just locked up the way it is with Kansas City at 5. That 6th slot is sort of a toss-up. Miami, Baltimore, and Tennessee all sitting pretty, and we're hoping Denver fades away. It's looking like they're going to. That offense can't get anything going. I watched that game on the side while watching the Raiders game, and I just kind of kept glancing over, and it was, failed third down conversion after failed third down conversion.
Turmoil. There's turmoil in Denver.
It was turmoil. So failed third down conversions. This is a great segue into talking about this San Diego Chargers game, Raiders San Diego Chargers game this weekend. The extra home game on our schedule, as always, which sort of offset the fact that we had to play a home game in Mexico this year. You can complain about that if you want, but Raider fans, don't forget, we got an extra home game every year in San Diego, and we happen to win that game in Mexico too, so, quit your bitching. I said failed third down conversions. So I thought this was a weird game. The offense wasn't horrible, but they failed to pick up third down conversions. I think they converted only 3 out of 13. The defense wasn't terrible, yet they gave up the big play at the beginning of the game. That combined with the offense's inability to get anything going made it a close match for 4 quarters.
Hasn't that been the question the last 2 weeks, though? I mean, hasn't that been the question? The big play? It has been. And so, the DBs have been giving up big plays the last 2 weeks, and you just cannot win playoff games when you can give up one big play. One big play can cost you a game.
It can, because it gets tight here as we get into the winter months. Even though, we're playing in a sunny stadium, it just December football, man. Guys are banged up. Legs aren't fresh anymore. Everything kind of slows down. It turns into a grind, and this is what it's going to look like. Luckily, we were able to lean on the rushing attack. We ran the ball 29 times, split the ball up pretty well. We saw the return of Washington. It looked okay. Obviously he looked like the 3rd running back in the roster. 135 yards total rushing. That was great. Offset the mediocre 200-yard passing performance by Derek Carr. Still threw 1 touchdown. Michael Crabtree came back to play. His hands looked good. Carr threw the rare interception. But overall, I think it was a failed third down conversion attempts. It wasn't really drops. Carr just didn't look sharp on third down. Now, they don't show us the route trees and the breakdowns and how the coverage is developing on TV. We don't get that camera shot. So I don't know. What do you think it was? Was it a case of the Chargers secondary taking the receivers out of the game, or is it the fact that our quarterback is completely out of rhythm? What do you think it is?
I think our quarterback is completely out of rhythm. I think our quarterback is not used to playing a full game in the pistol or in the shotgun. And I think that's hurting our offense as a whole. You can't do the play action. I think our quarterback thrives off the play action pass. And it just, him and Michael Crabtree have a really good connection on the play action. And that hasn't manifested itself here in the last couple of weeks. So, with that being said, he's still been Derek Carr. He's been slinging the ball around. As everybody says, he's had a good game or whatever, this or that. But in my opinion, Derek Carr is injured and Derek Carr is hurt. And yeah, we made the playoffs and I'm glad, I'm happy we did. But at the same time, Derek Carr needs to rest for a game. So what I would like to see is Kansas City lose one more game, and I would like to see us win this week. But Denver ain't going to help us at all. But, I would like to see us win this week, Kansas City lose, then we can rest Derek Carr in Denver, and give his finger just a little bit of time to relax. He doesn't have to practice that week. He can just relax and let McGloin take all the snaps and just give that pinky a little rest, because I feel like that's a big part of why Derek Carr hasn't been Derek Carr for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and can you imagine that? The Raiders resting a quarterback in Week 17 as they head into the playoffs. It's just step back, breathe for a second, and swallow that, Raider fan, because that's something that might be a luxury for us. It's doubtful, but it could happen. If it doesn't happen, he's got the bye week, hopefully. Fingers crossed we hold on to this number 1 spot. And he gets a little bit of a respite at that moment. I don't want him resting too much because when we're talking about rhythm as an issue, obviously you want him on the field, but he's got to get up under center. Now, he said he was taking snaps under center in practice. They didn't go with it game time. I don't know how many snaps he's taking. Obviously, that's going to feed into the game plan. I mean, how many snaps he's taking in practice. So I think, the coaches, maybe it's okay, but they're keeping it under bubble wrap until it looks terrible. We did lose the Chiefs game, but you also have to understand we were also in a position to win that game, and wide receiver drops did not help him in that game. If we don't have all those dropped balls, we might not even be talking so much about the finger right now. The Chiefs Chargers
if was
game,
a fifth, we'd all be drunk.
There you go. Big ifs. So again, the Raiders Chargers game, just a weird game. We were chopping it up earlier, and you said something about that being a typical Raiders Chargers game. Talk about that a little bit. Tell me again what you said earlier.
Basically, this game was an indication of all Charger Raider games. If you go back into the 70s up until date, the Raiders and Chargers have been battling out for years. They have had close games. I mean, if you go back to when the Raiders have been nothing, garbage, 2-14, 2-14 at being their worst, they still played the Chargers tough. And I bet you if you go back and look, those games were close. What I'm saying is the game that we saw yesterday was a typical Raider-Charger game going all the way back to the 70s with Dan Fouts on Monday nights right here till today. They've been playing each other's tough. The Chargers' rival is not the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not the Denver Broncos. It's the Oakland Raiders. Now, if you want to look at the Raiders and say their rivals was the Chiefs or the Broncos, yeah, that's true. But when you're looking at it from a Charger perspective, we're their rivals. And they look to beat us every time they play us. They can be 0-13. And they're going to come and play, especially with Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, LaDainian Tomlinson, they look to beat the Raiders. They've been beating us. So for anybody that thought that Phillip Rivers was going to lay down and let the Raiders just come in there and take clinch a playoff game, he had his claws out and he was ready to dig in. And you know what? You almost gave it up to him. You skated out of there with a win. And you better thank Sebastian Janikowski for that, because he scored 13 of 19 points for us. So, let me just say this. The Raiders and the Chargers, they battle every time. They battle down to the wire. And you can go back 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16 games. And the Raiders and Chargers have battled it out every time.
Yeah, we have. I mean, there was a few blowouts. Last season, there was a blowout. It looked close late, but the game was a blowout. But you're right. For the most part, they've been weird matchups, low-scoring matchups, sometimes shootouts, always coming down to the wire, and we're out on top this time. And speaking of that rivalry, a guy that really put a lot of gas on that fire, who was it? Was it their former head coach? Wasn't it Marty Schottenheimer? Was it Schottenheimer that was over there?
Marty Schottenheimer.
Yeah. Marty Schottenheimer.
Marty,
I'm looking at you, Marty. You know what? Marty Ball never won a damn thing in your life. That team never won. Shut your mouth, Marty. Shut your damn mouth, Marty. Get your Marty Ball out of here.
Marty
Ball, as they say.
Marty Ball can go shoddy ball. Yeah, that's right.
Get up out of here. Hey, another person that needs to shut their mouth is Janikowski hater, okay? If I told you at the beginning of this season that Janikowski's leg was going to push us into the playoffs, clinch a playoff berth, what would you have told me? Shut your damn mouth.
I would have told you to count on Jano.
I know you would. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you, Kane. You know who I'm talking to. All of you 11 haters out there. Let me tell you something. Janikowski is ride or die. He's the only guy in this squad that was here the last time we went to the playoffs, and he's here when we're back in the playoffs. Get up off my back and shut your damn mouth. Seabass.
Props out to Seabass, baby. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Holler at your boy.
Round of applause off of Sebastian Janikowski.
That's it right there.
You won the game for us, baby. You won the game for us.
So before we get up out of here to break, we need to talk about it's garbage man time. It's time to take out the trash. Give me your trash player of the game, Kane.
I'm gonna have to say the Raiders cornerbacks are the trash players of the game. They've been giving up too many deep passes, man. Look, you've been giving up too many big plays. Yes, we've won games, But the defensive backs have given up big plays in the last 2 weeks. Just go back and watch the film. If you don't believe me, just look. Tyreek Hill, deep pass. Travis Benjamin. Looked like the ball was in the air for about 2 minutes. Sean Smith couldn't even catch up to it. Deep pass, caught, touchdown. I'm just saying, the Raiders' defensive backs are suspect to the deep pass. And if that front seven doesn't keep playing like it is, the Raiders' defensive backs are going to have a long offseason, baby. Matter of fact, you're going to have a long offseason against Andy Luck next week, because Andy Luck ain't no joke. And you bet not count him out, because if you do, you might just be hurt for that. And that can hurt you to make the division champs. So you need to watch out next week. And I guarantee you, the garbage players last week, matter of fact, and in the week before last, because I said it then too, the defensive backs, stop giving up big plays, y'all. Stop giving up big plays, Sean Smith. Stop giving up big plays, David Amerson. You started out the season as one of the top-rated cornerbacks in the league. Now look where you at. Sean Smith, we done paid you all this money. You need to come out here and play the position you do. Reggie Nelson, you need to learn Sean Smith and David Amerson. You know what I'm saying? Nate Allen, you need to step up, because you the next man up, baby. Carl Joseph ain't there. Step it up. Defensive backs, step it up.
To be fair, Nate Allen actually graded out as one of our highest defensive players behind Mack and Smith. He had an 83.8, and Amerson finished with an 86. But I know what you're saying. And Reggie Nelson, I'm looking at you too. Reggie Nelson, are you happy getting garbage time interceptions to pad your stats? Is that the interception you want? Reggie Nelson, do something. Need you to do something.
Reggie Nelson been getting garbage time interceptions when he played for the Bengals. He was getting garbage time interceptions then too. But you know what though? They garbage time interceptions, but look at this though. They closing out game interceptions too.
Yeah, they close out the game for sure.
They closing out game interceptions, so we got to give him his props on that.
But tell me, Nelson, you don't want to see him do more. Do more. Show me something. I want to see something more from my defensive backs. Period. Trash. I need something more from my defensive backs, baby. All right, here's my trash player. My trash player of the game, Austin Howard. You're garbage. You're garbage every week. How you gonna have the biggest offensive line in the whole league, and you're gonna let the guy through the door every single play? You're playing next to the biggest men in the National Football League, and look at you. Look at your damn self. Look in the mirror, Austin Howard.
Look at yourself. Look at you.
You don't belong on that offensive line.
What's up with Menelik Watson?
I don't know, man. I'm seeing his grade every week, and it's not too good. But when I see him on the field, big plays on the offense happen. So you tell me what's going on. Is he still not 100?
With Menelik?
Yeah, I'm seeing good things happen when he's on the line.
I don't know. I think you know sometimes when you got a gynecologist, I mean, you just the coaches start to question your ability to stay on the field. You know what I mean? So maybe Menelik got a gynecologist. I don't know.
Menelik, get your gynecologist on the phone. Tell him to call me. I'm gonna have him write you a damn note so you can get back to work. Okay? You just hit me up at Pillage Just for Fun on Twitter. Get at me. You know where I'm at. I know you're listening. I know you're out there, Watson, because you ain't got nothing else to do. So. Get your gyno on the phone. We'll get you back on the field. Let's make it happen. All right.
Let's make it happen, baby.
Another way you can get a hold of us is calling the hotline, 408-909-PJFF. You can leave us a message there. If we like it, we'll play it on the show. Again, 408-909-PJFF. We're going to take a break, and we're going to hear from some of our callers. And when we come back, we'll give you our MVP, and we'll break down next week's game. All right, y'all. See you after the break. You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans, featuring fan-submitted articles and the most lively Raider Nation conversation on the internet. Follow us on Twitter, at PillageJustForFun. That's at PillageJust4Fun. Also, tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio.
What's going on? Delaware Raider, all the way from Delaware, baby. Raiders making the playoffs, man. Can't believe it. Great game. It was crazy, but we pulled it off. 11-3, first place. Let's get it.
It's a plug for Hall of Fame.
Raiders! What's up, Pillaging crew? This is 303 Raider. Oh my gosh. I'm taking the wifey out dancing. The kids are stoked. My youngest doesn't even know. He wasn't even born last time we made the playoffs. But we in, baby. Raider Nation. Let's do this.
Hey, this is Friskies, a.k.a. Raider Cat Dave, a.k.a. Sixth Life Meow, a.k.a. Whiskers Raider, a.k.a. Raider Dave Nevada. How you, Andy Reid? Laugh out loud, cut and paste. Hi, AJ. I'm out. Go Raiders!
All right, we're back. As promised, I told you we would talk about the MVP of the Chargers-Raiders game before we moved on to Indianapolis. Who's your MVP, Kane?
Sebastian Janikowski, 13 of 19 points. Scored the game-winning field goal. 17 years a Raider. Been through the dirt and the trenches of garbageness and came out to win us a game. My MVP is Sebastian Janikowski.
Suck on that one, haters. My MVP for this game was Bruce Irvin. He had the forced fumble at the end of the first quarter, and obviously he had the sack to close out the end of the game. Bruce Irvin had actually 6 sacks now in the season. He's closing in on his season high for his career. Bruce Irvin's been criticized at times this year. A lot of people, I think, thought he was just going to be like this terror in the quarterback's face all the time. That wasn't his job in Seattle. When he came here, and one of the reasons why he came here was a promise that he was going to be able to pin his ears back and get after the quarterback. And he's fast. He's not that brute force that Khalil Mack is, but he's a fast guy. He can knife in there. And we're seeing that. I don't think that I'm not seeing anything out of Urban that I expected, if I'm making sense. Basically, I'm seeing what I expected out of Bruce Irvin. And so I'm not mad at you. I'm glad you get an MVP ball this week, Bruce. You've been working hard all season and you deserved it. And I want to say thank you. You're shaking your head, Kane. You disagree with me.
I'm going to give you Sebastian Janikowski, bro. 17 years with the Raiders, 14 years of futility. I'm going to say Sebastian Janikowski gets this game ball this week, and I'm proud of you, baby. You showed up when you needed to, and you didn't have to show up 14 years in the stretch because you know what? The whole team didn't show up with you. So you showed up today with a team that showed up with you. You showed up Sunday, and you showed those youngsters on that team what 17 years can do in the NFL. You came through, and you scored 13 points, which of 3 of them was winning the game. You won the game for us, Sebastian Janikowski. Without you, we would not have won that game, baby. Balls out to you.
And like I said, I don't disagree with you. I'm not debating you. That we do this every week. We give out 2 game balls. So Bruce Irvin and Sebastian Janikowski, you guys handled it this week, holding it down for Oaktown. Let's move on. We got a Christmas Eve game. This is a Saturday game, and we're playing the Colts here back at home. It's going to be our last home game of the season. You know that crowd's going to be rocking. They're going to be celebrating this clinched playoff berth. This is Clinch Mode right now. We're in Clinch Mode. And it's going to be a raucous crowd. They're going to get good reception. And you know, there ain't going to be no Colts fans out there.
I feel sorry for Colt fan. I feel sorry for the Colts.
I never even met Colt fan. I'm not sure I can feel sorry for something I'm not even sure really exists outside of Indianapolis or Baltimore for that matter. So let's talk about this game. I've been looking at the stats, and they're not really telling me too much, but I think we know what the intangibles are. The Colts defense is poor. We're ranked similarly, the difference being that Oakland creates opportunities for itself. We do have some good pass rushers, and we're getting turnovers. They're not. They don't really have that on their team. It is a vanilla defense. I would say that's the big knock on them. But what they do have is Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck is he's a game changer. I mean, he's a playmaker. He can hurt you. He really can. he doesn't have the running attack. They got Frank Gore as their leading rusher. I think he's averaging less than 4 yards per carry. And their number 2 rusher is Andrew Luck. So this really comes down to a tale of 2 quarterbacks and possibly this Raiders defense. I feel like, Luck is susceptible. This guy's not bulletproof. If we can get after him, that offensive line is a question mark for Indianapolis. I think my key to the game is really hurry Luck and let the defense keep doing what it's been doing the past few weeks, and hopefully Derek Carr finding his rhythm again. That would be a major edge in the game. We've seen the offense now has multiple ways to win games. I would really like to see Derek Carr step up and win one as we go down the stretch here, because it's looked really shaky. What say you, Kane? What do you got for the keys to this week's game?
The keys to this week's game is to shut down Andrew Luck. They don't have pretty much a running game. Yeah, Gore had a good game last week, but we've been pretty good against the run. So I think, like I said, we susceptible to the deep ball, we susceptible to the pass, and we susceptible to the tight end, which Kobe Fleener, I believe, is a tight end, has been having a average season, So Andrew Luck, that's the key right there. If you can stop and contain, because Andrew Luck is a cross between Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. He can run and he can pass accurately. So if you can contain Andrew Luck, and pretty much that's all you got to do. You guys got a good run defense. The front seven, like I said, has been playing really well. So I don't see them running the ball on us heavily. I see them looking at our defensive backs as a weakness, and I see Andrew Luck trying to capitalize on that.
So one other component of that offense, and I'm going to ask you a question. Who do you put on T.Y. Hilton? He has 81 catches. He's got about 1,250 yards on the season. He's averaging 15 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns, and only 6 drops for the year. Who do you put on T.Y. Hilton this weekend? Because that's going to be the key to stopping Luck.
The one defensive back that can guard him is injured. DJ Hayden. He's injured. So I guess
you really believe.
So
elaborate on that. Tell me more about that.
He's built to guard receivers like T.Y. Hilton, Brandon Cooks, these guys, Tyreek Hill. These guys are slot receivers that get out in the open space and can make plays. And DJ Hayden is pretty good making plays in the open space and making tackles after the catch. He may not be able to shut down a corner receiver, but he sure makes plays after the catch. And what I see is when you put those smaller receivers on Sean Smith, he doesn't guard those smaller receivers well. And if you look at David Amerson, I'm gonna think the same thing about them too. David Amerson, neither cornerback, they both long and rangy, and they're not a bump and run sort of cornerback. They need to give them a little bit of room in the beginning to try to follow that pattern out and try to cut that ball off, especially with Amerson. So, these are these small, shifty little receivers that can get open in space. So, the one cornerback that we got that can guard T.Y. Hilton is injured. So I guess I'm going to have to look at T.J. Carey to go in here and try to tie down T.Y. Hilton. I would definitely not put Amerson or Smith on him. I wouldn't do that.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see more zone coverages this week because of that. They don't have that many weapons where I think we can afford to get into a scheme like a zone coverage with some more blitz packages mixed in. We've seen our defense be multiple this year, and the game plans have been varied. I would like to see more of that this week. I don't really think they have a lot of guys that can hurt us. So let your cornerbacks make decisions and make Andrew Luck make the reads and possibly give our pass rush a little time to get back there in the pocket. I don't know if that's a solution or not, but that's the way I'd like to see him go. So I want to wax nostalgic for a minute because the last meaningful Colts game that we've played was during the Gruden era, and Peyton Manning was their quarterback. And if I know you remember this game, Kane, because at halftime it looked really, really bleak. It looked really poor.
And then Greg Beaker came out and called all the offensive plays off to the defense. I remember that.
Greg Beaker had collected all of Peyton Manning's audibles. This was pre-Omaha days, mind you.
Exactly.
And they came back and shut that dude down. And Gannon ended up having a really high rating that day. I remember he had a naked bootleg. He had a rushing touchdown, a couple passing touchdowns. It really just took over that second half. And when I thought about that, because every time we play the Colts, I think about that game, and it just really put things in perspective for me this year that we're really playing for things again. I mentioned it last week that it was so surreal being in the position that we're in. And I'm going to say it again this week, because once we won that game in San Diego, and even when I saw the Chiefs lose prior to the game, I was just sitting on my couch man, I had nothing to say. I screamed at my television, and then I just kind of sat there, and I was with my boy, and I was like, dude, I don't even know what to say right now. Like, this is weird. This is crazy. We finally made it. The time has come, and we're going to see a lot more seasons like this going forward. And it's really just, as a Raider fan and everybody out there listening, you know what I'm talking about. And just take a moment to enjoy this. It's the holidays. The lights are out. You're with family. Just put a smile on your face. I know a lot of us are going through stuff financially, personally. You got your team, Raider fan. I know that means a lot to you. And you got the holidays. You got something to root for this year at this time of year. If that doesn't put on a smile on your face, I don't know what would. Happy holidays, Raider Nation. You deserve this.
Happy holidays, Raider Nation. You deserve this. And you know what? I remember back to when we were in the playoffs in 2000, 2001, and 2002. And I remember back then we was looking in the newspaper. You know, it wasn't so much internet. It was a lot of newspaper back then. I used to read the newspaper a lot. And I would watch the Raiders. I would monitor whether they was going to get the number one seed, you know, and I haven't been able to do that in 14 years. I haven't been able to look at the standings and go, okay, how can we get the number one seed? How can we be a wild card team? How can we, so Raiders, I love you. I can almost cry right now, but I'm going to hold it in, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm serious. When I say this, I could really bust out and cry right now because y'all made the playoffs before I die. It's been 14 years is a long time, and that's why I gave props out to Willie. Because you know what? Living and knowing that you getting down to the end of times and your team hasn't been doing or winning, that can be hurt. That can be a hurtful thing. And so now that we made the playoffs, you don't know what y'all did for a lot of the fans. You have really helped some people in life just by making the playoffs. So let's go out. Let's win these next two games, and let's win the division. Because when you came here, Jack Del Rio, you said you wanted to win the division. And the division is for your taking right now. Let's take it. Let's do it for Willie. Let's do it for Willie. That's what I'm talking about right now.
And I think you mentioned Jack Del Rio, and he's one of the names that makes this whole thing that much sweeter. You have guys like Jack. You have a guy like Reggie that used to play for the Raiders. And we have players on the team like Dan Williams, who grew up a Raiders fan. Derek Carr, who I think's family was split, but I know living in Fresno, he was a fan of Bay Area teams. I think he might have been a Cowboys fan too. I don't know. Somebody correct me on that. But you have Raider fans on this staff. You have members of Raider Nation coaching this team. And that says something. Last week, Takeo Spikes tweeted out, and he says, no matter what team you played for, every athlete, imagine what they look like when they put on that black jersey. Takeo Spikes never played for the Raiders. All right? And you have guys like this that are on our squad. This thing is sweet for everybody. And I think Willie is a fine example of that Raider fan that stuck through everything. We love you, Willie. I don't really have anything else to say this week. I really just wanted to say Merry Christmas to everyone that's out there. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. However you celebrate this time of year, make sure you do it with the black jersey on. That's all I got. Kane, what do you got?
I want to give a shout out to Oakland Raiders for going to the Super Bowl and to St. Kaufman for going to the Super Bowl in fantasy football. And I wish y'all luck, and I hope y'all do well. And thank you for playing fantasy football in Kane's fantasy football season. Other than that, go Raiders. Let's beat the Colts. Let's get out here and beat the Colts and Denver, and let's win the division. Raiders.
And that's it for this week's show. Again, tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Also follow us on Twitter at @PillAsJustForFun. That's the number 4. I'm Kenny Stapler, joined as always by my host,
Raider Kane.
And we out here. Peace.
We out here, baby. Raiders.
Like a freight train coming, you're blowing the town. Like a diesel motor, you never shut down. With your pistons pumping, you're mowing them down. It's a sight to see, they all lay their money down. When you're gone, mama, hell, you ain't acting right. When you're gone, mama, I can still see your eyes. When you're gone, mama, this'll be my last goodbye. When you're gone, gone, when the sky is gray and the night sets in, it's your cue to do it all again. Until the next time I hear your name, or write this sign to now my thoughts to remain. When you're gone, mama, I'll be missing you. When you're gone, mama, I can still see your eyes. When you're gone, mama, this'll be my last goodbye. When you're gone, gone, when you're gone, no one can call on you. When you're gone, I'll be missing you. When you're gone, mama, you still ain't acting right. When you're gone, gone, gone. When you're gone, gone, gone.
Woo! We was on fire, boy. We was on fire. Yeah, we smashed that. Hey, we on fire today, boy.